the orchard, the dungeon, and the girl who never heard him calling. Chapter 1, The Boy from the Mudfields. Lowmere was not a kingdom so much as a bruise on the map. It sat low between two ranges of tired brown hills, where the rain collected in the roads and the wind came through like it had lost something. The soil was heavy, dark, and stubborn. Men broke their backs on it. Women wore their hands rough against it. Children learned early that bread did not come from kindness, but from weather, sweat, and whether the landlord's men took their share before rats did. Elias Seldo had been born in the mudfields east of town, in a farmhouse that leaned a little more each winter. His father had died under a collapsed barn roof when Elias was 10. His mother, Mary Seldo, stayed alive afterward with the quiet fury of a woman who had no time to mourn properly. She rose before dawn, boiled oats thin as water, tied her grey-streaked hair under a cloth, and sent Elias into the fields with a kiss on his brow and a warning not to let the Aster tacksman count the second goat. By 17, Elias had shoulders shaped by labor and eyes that never seemed to harden, no matter how much the town tried to teach them. He was poor enough to know exactly how many coins were in the house at any hour. Poor enough to mend his boots with twine. Poor enough that when he laughed, people turned their heads, as if joy from such a boy was either brave or foolish. He had never seen the inside of Aster Hall. Everyone in Lowmere had seen it from below, of course. It rose on the hill beyond the church and market square, pale stone and black iron, with long windows that caught the sun before the town did. People called it the castle, though it was technically a manor. No one cared about the difference. It had walls, guards, gates, and the Asters inside. That was enough. Princess Maribel Aster lived there. She was not a princess by crown, not truly. Lowmere had no throne, only old titles that had stuck to powerful families like Burrs. But the people called her princess anyway, partly because her father wanted them to, partly because she looked like something kept apart from ordinary weather. Elias first saw her properly at the spring tithe festival, where the poor came to smile at the rich for taking from them. He had come with 2 sacks of barley balanced across his shoulders, boots sinking into the damp edge of the market green. Around him, farmers waited in a slow line while Lord Edric's clerks counted grain and livestock with their dry little fingers. A fiddler played near the well. Children chased each other between carts. The air smelled of cider, horse sweat, roasting onions, and wet wool. Then the crowd shifted. Maribel Aster stepped down from a black carriage, and the noise thinned around her. She was 16, perhaps near 17, dressed in a blue gown too fine for the mud it hovered above. Her dark hair was pinned with silver combs, but a few strands had escaped and moved softly against her cheeks. She smiled when the town bowed, though there was something uneasy in the smile, as if she had been taught where to place it but not how long to hold it. Elias stared longer than he meant to. His friend Tomas Reed elbowed him. "Careful," Tomas muttered. "Looking at her costs more than we've got." Elias looked away, embarrassed, and adjusted the weight of barley on his back. "I wasn't looking." "You were nearly praying." "I don't pray to girls." "You might start." Elias gave him a shove with his shoulder, but his face was warm. At the tithe table, Clerk Ven weighed the sacks and found a reason to be displeased, as he always did. "Light," Ven said. "They're full," Elias answered. "Light by Aster measure." "Aster measure changes every season." The clerk's pale eyes lifted. Around them, the line went quiet in the subtle way poor people went quiet when danger entered a conversation. Ven tapped his quill against the ledger. "Say that again." Elias knew he should lower his head. His mother's voice came to him clearly, "Pride does not fill a pot." But the morning had been long, his arms ached, and something in him hated the clerk's clean nails. "I said the sacks are full." "That is not what you said." Before Elias could answer, another voice cut in. "They look full to me." It was not a loud voice, but it carried because people made room for it. Maribel stood a few steps away, one gloved hand resting on the arm of her companion, an older woman named Lady Serapha who looked permanently disappointed in the world. The princess's eyes moved from the sacks to Clerk Ven. "Do they not?" she asked. Ven's mouth tightened. "Lady Maribel, the matter of weights is dull," she said. "And today is meant to be festive." A few people hid smiles badly. Elias looked down because looking at her directly felt suddenly impossible. Ven hesitated, then wrote something bitterly in his ledger. "Accepted." Elias took the empty sacks back. For half a second, Maribel's eyes met his. They were not the pale blue he had expected from a girl in a tower. They were brown, warm, and watchful, like polished chestnuts held near firelight. "Thank you," Elias said quietly. She should have moved on. A girl like her was trained to receive gratitude like weather, briefly and from above. Instead, she asked, "Were they full?" His mouth betrayed him before good sense could intervene. "By Seldo measure, yes." Her lips curved. "And is Seldo measure honest?" "Depends who's asking." Lady Serapha inhaled sharply. Tomas, behind him, made a sound like a dying bird. But Maribel laughed. It was quick, surprised, and gone almost immediately, but Elias heard it as clearly as if someone had rung the church bell beside his ear. "I'll remember that," she said. Then she was guided away, back into the festival's careful pattern of bows and polite distance. Elias stood with the empty sacks in his hands, feeling as though the whole market had tilted slightly. Tomas came up beside him. "You're dead." She laughed. "Yes. That's how they mark you before the hanging." But Elias kept watching her, even after he knew better. That evening, Lowmere glowed in patches. Lanterns hung from posts around the green. The fiddler had become drunk enough to play faster than anyone could dance. Men argued cheerfully over cider. Women traded gossip with the seriousness of priests. Children fell asleep under tables, sticky-faced and warm. Elias had meant to return home before dark, but Mary had sent him with a list: salt, lamp oil, thread, and, if the baker was feeling generous near closing, yesterday's bread. The list gave him an excuse to stay. Or perhaps he used the list as an excuse. He did not examine it too closely. He saw Maribel again near the old stone bridge at the far edge of the green. She had slipped away from the main crowd, though not very far. Lady Serapha stood at a distance, speaking with the vicar, while two guards lingered near a cider stall. Maribel leaned over the bridge wall, looking down at the narrow stream that cut through Lowmere and carried bits of straw, petals, and candle wax away into the fields. Elias should have passed without speaking. He stopped. "You'll ruin your gloves on that stone," he said. She turned. The surprise in her face softened when she recognized him. "Seldo measure," she said. "Elias," he corrected, then immediately wished he had not. "Elias," she repeated. "And do you always warn people about stonework?" "Only when they look expensive." "That sounds practical." "I'm known for that." "I doubt it." He smiled despite himself. She looked back toward the water. For a moment, neither spoke. Below them, the stream worried at the stones, making small restless sounds. "I envy it," Maribel said. "The stream. It gets to leave Lowmere." Elias glanced at her. I thought girls in Aster Hall could leave whenever they liked. That is because you have never been a girl in Aster Hall. The answer was plain, not self-pitying. It unsettled him. He had imagined richness as a kind of endless permission. Fine clothes, full plates, clean sheets, horses ready to carry you wherever you pointed. He had not considered that a locked door might be polished. "Where would you go?" he asked. She thought about it with more seriousness than the question deserved. "North first," she said. "Past the wool towns. Then maybe to the sea." "I've never seen it." "Neither have I." "Then you can't tell me if it's worth seeing." "No. But old Bram at the mill says it's just a field that forgot to stop raining." Maribel laughed again, and this time it lingered. Elias watched the water because her laughter made him careless. "You speak differently than people at the hall," she said. "Worse. Cleaner." He looked down at his mud-caked boots. "That's a first." "I mean you say what you mean." "Not always." "What are you not saying now?" It was a dangerous question. The kind that opened a gate without showing what waited beyond it. Elias felt the festival behind them, all lanterns and music and bodies moving in ordinary life. He felt the hill above town, the manor watching with its many lit windows. He felt the difference between them like a rope pulled tight. "I'm not saying," he answered carefully, "that you should go back before someone notices you talking to me." Her expression changed, but not into fear. Something more like disappointment. "Is that your practical advice?" "Yes." "And your honest advice?" He looked at her then. "My honest advice is worse." The air between them seemed to grow warmer. Maribel's hand rested on the stone wall. His was close enough that if he moved one finger, they would touch. Behind them, Lady Serapha called, "Maribel." The princess straightened at once, the training returning to her spine and chin. "I should go," she said. "Yes." She took 2 steps, then turned back. "The old orchard beyond St. Ara's chapel. Do you know it?" Elias blinked. "Everyone knows it." "Tomorrow," she said. "After Vespers." Then she walked away before he could answer. Elias remained by the bridge until Tomas found him and accused him of having the expression of a man who had either seen an angel or been kicked by a mule. That night, Elias returned to the farmhouse with oil, salt, thread, bread, and no memory of buying any of it. Mary Seldo sat by the hearth, mending a shirt by candlelight. She looked up when he entered. "You're late." "The baker took time." "The baker's been asleep since sundown." Elias set the bundle on the table. His mother studied him. She had a narrow face, tired eyes, and the troubling ability to read guilt before it had properly formed. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Elias." He took off his coat and hung it by the door. "I spoke with someone." "That answer has a roof but no walls." He tried to smile. It did not work. Mary lowered the shirt into her lap. "Someone from the hall." The silence answered for him. His mother closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, there was no anger in them, which somehow made it worse. "You listen to me," she said. "The Asters do not love downward. They may smile downward. They may pity downward. They may even reach down for amusement. But they do not climb down and stay. She isn't like that. You know this from one conversation." 2. Mary almost laughed, but the sound died before it reached her mouth. Elias came closer to the hearth. "She's lonely. So are wolves in winter. That isn't fair." "No," Mary said. "It is not. Fairness is not what keeps poor boys alive. He looked into the fire. A log shifted, sending sparks up the chimney. I'm only meeting her once, he said. Mary's face tightened with the sorrow of someone hearing a lie that the liar still believed. Once, she repeated. Elias said nothing. Outside, wind moved over the fields and pressed against the walls. The farmhouse creaked around them, old wood answering old weather. The next evening, Elias went to the orchard. St. Ara's chapel had been abandoned long enough for ivy to claim one wall and birds to nest in the bell tower. The orchard behind it was older still, full of bent apple trees that flowered white in spring and dropped sour fruit by autumn. At dusk, the place seemed half made of shadow. Maribel was already there. She wore a plain cloak over her dress, but nothing could make her look common. Not because of jewels or fabric. She carried herself like someone always watched, even when she was alone. You came, she said. So did you. I asked first. I answered second. She smiled. Is everything a contest in the mudfields? Only the things we can't afford to lose. They walked beneath the apple trees until the chapel hid the road from view. At first they spoke of harmless things. Weather. Horses. The town baker's habit of burning the bottom of every loaf. Maribel told him Lady Serapha believed laughter widened the face and was therefore best avoided. Elias told her Tomas once tried to impress a girl by jumping the mill race and had to be dragged out smelling like river weeds. But harmless talk did not last. There were too many questions pressing behind it. Maribel wanted to know how he spent his days. He told her. Not prettily. He spoke of frost in the soil, of hands split open in winter, of counting seed and praying the crows found someone else's field first. She listened without flinching, which he respected more than sympathy. Elias asked about Aster Hall. She described corridors where footsteps sounded too loud, dinners where every word had a hook in it, lessons in music, lineage, posture, obedience. She spoke of her father with care. He loves me, she said. Elias picked up a fallen twig and broke it between his fingers. You say that like you're trying to solve it. Sometimes love is a room with no handle. He looked at her, and the twig stilled in his hands. The last light of day caught in the loose strands of her hair. Her face, freed from the festival's public smile, seemed younger and sharper all at once. She was not the town's princess then. She was a girl standing in an abandoned orchard, saying something true to a boy who should not have been there. Maribel, he said, testing her name without title. She did not correct him. They met again 2 evenings later. Then again after that. Their meetings became a secret path worn through the days. Elias worked with a strange new strength, as though every row he hoed and every sack he lifted brought him closer to dusk. Maribel learned how to leave through the east garden gate when the kitchen carts came in. Elias learned which guards liked cards, which drank, which watched the road with honest eyes. They did not speak of forever. Forever was too large and foolish a thing. They spoke instead of next time, and next time was dangerous enough. One night, rain trapped them in the old chapel. It came suddenly, hard against the broken roof tiles, turning the orchard silver in the flashes of distant lightning. Maribel stood near the cracked altar, laughing as she wrung rainwater from her sleeve. You look pleased, Elias said. I have never been soaked without someone calling it a disaster. It is a disaster. Your shoes are worth more than our plough. Then they should learn humility. He laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the chapel. Thunder moved over Lowmere. The air smelled of wet stone and apple blossoms. Maribel's laughter faded when she looked at him. Elias knew the moment had changed. It was not sudden, not really. It had been growing each time they stood too close, each time their hands brushed and both pretended not to notice. But now there was nowhere to look except at each other. She stepped nearer. "Elias," she said. It sounded different in her mouth now. Not casual. Not playful. He reached for her hand slowly, giving her all the time in the world to pull away. She did not. Her fingers were cold from the rain. He held them carefully at first, as if they were something breakable. Then her grip tightened, and the care became something fiercer. When they kissed, it was brief. Then it was not. Outside, rain battered the chapel roof. Inside, the ruined saints watched with worn stone faces as the poor farm boy and the Lord's daughter forgot, for a handful of stolen minutes, every wall built before they were born. Afterward, they stood close in the dimness, foreheads nearly touching. Maribel whispered, "This is impossible." Elias answered, "I know." Neither moved away. By the time the rain softened, the world had returned to its proper shape, but only cruelly. There was still a manor on the hill. Still a farmhouse in the mudfields. Still names, titles, taxes, gates, guards, ledgers, mothers waiting by hearths, fathers expecting obedience. Maribel pulled her cloak around herself. "I have to go." Elias nodded. At the chapel door, she turned back. Her hair was damp against her face, and her eyes were bright with something too alive to be called happiness. "Tomorrow?" she asked. He should have said no. He should have remembered his mother's warning, Tomas's jokes, the clerk's cold stare, the way people like him disappeared from records without leaving a wrinkle. Instead, Elias smiled. "Tomorrow."